Hi, today we're going to look at something which will sound very familiar when you hear it in just a moment. We're going to look at boogie guitar, or boogie woogie, or traditional rock and roll guitar, as some people call it. And it's a very, very well-known, popular technique that you can use to play hundreds of songs in that style. So I think you're really going to enjoy today's session. So I'm just going to run through a typical structure of changes for this kind of technique. And I'm sure you'll recognise the kind of thing straight away. So here we go. A very familiar sound on the guitar, especially when it comes to early rock and roll and certain types of blues and boogie music. But what was I actually doing to achieve that sound? Well, first of all, let's look at step one, which is based on the chord of A. So what I'm doing is just playing the bass part of the chord of A, the bass strings. So I've got my index finger on the third string down from the physical top of the guitar in fret 2. So that string is the D string, and I'm strumming from the open A string, which is the string immediately above it, the second string down from the top of the guitar. So that's the bass string, if you like. And then the only other string involved is the D string, the one that I'm pressing. So we're just playing those two strings and nothing else. So I'm kind of using the rest of my index finger to try and mute the lower strings, so that if I go down too low, it doesn't matter too much because the lower strings are muted. You don't have to do that, but it's a useful technique if you can. If you can't, just make sure that you only strum the two strings in question. And I'm doing two little strums on each alternation. So two strums on the second fret and then two strums on the fourth fret. The frets, of course, being the gaps. Really, the frets are the metal bits, but for learning the guitar, it's easier to think of the frets as being the gaps. And when you put it all together, it sounds like this. Okay, so here's a real close-up of what I was doing. You notice that I'm occasionally going up to the 5th fret with my little finger or fourth finger, just to give it a bit of variety. But whenever I do that, I always do it via my third finger or the ring finger, because it sounds awful going straight to the 5th fret like this. Just wouldn't sound right. So whether you're going up to the 5th fret or back, either way, it's always via the 4th fret. And as will be the case with all of the 3 steps we're going to look at today, I'll always be strumming just 2 strings. The string that I'm actually pressing with my left hand, which in this case on step 1 is the D string, the third string down from the top of the guitar, and whatever the string is immediately above that, which is always going to be an open string like this. And as you can see, I'm just using a normal plectrum or flat pick, as some people call it. So that's our step 1, if you like. And then step 2, you just take the whole thing down 1 string. So I'm doing exactly the same thing, but 1 string lower. So my open string, my bass string, is now the third string down from the physical top of the guitar, which is the D string, that one there, and I'm pressing the string below that, which is the fourth string down from the top of the guitar, which is the G string. And again, just playing only those two strings, and if possible trying to mute the lower strings with the rest of my index finger. Doing exactly the same thing. Here we go. And here's the close-up. And there's only some of these steps repeat, by the way, but I'll show you that in a minute. But there's only one other stage involved, or part chord if you like, which is this one here, where I'm pressing the second string down from the top of the guitar, which is the A string, again on the second fret. This is all on the second fret. And my bass string or open string is now the thick E string at the top of the guitar. Again, just strumming those two strings like this. And here's a close-up. So how do I know what order or sequence to play those three steps in? Well, in terms of the open strings, the ones that I'm not pressing, if you think of A, D, A, E, D, A, or Adda, Edda, that tells you the order of the changes, because the first section uses the open A string, and then the next step is the open D string, and then it goes back to the open A, and then it's the E one, the open E string, then back to the open D string, and then back to the A one again, the open A string. Okay, Adda, Edda. That describes a typical, what's commonly known as 12-bar blues structure, although it's not always exactly 12 bars depending on the lyrics in the actual song, but the structure of a typical traditional rock and roll 12-bar type song follows that Adda, Edda sequence of chord changes. You can, if you like, play it a lot slower to get a more kind of traditional blues kind of feel. A bit like this. Or you can actually knock out one of the strums on each alternation. So instead of doing two quick strums on the second and fourth fret, you're only doing one, like this. And so on, which gives you a bit more of an upbeat kind of status quo rock feel rather than blues. And I'm just rounding everything off with the chord of A9, which is this. And for the chord of A9, as you can see, it's a very simple chord to play because I'm just pressing the D string, the third string down from the physical top of the guitar, on the second fret, and that is literally the only string I'm pressing to play this chord. All the other strings are open. But remember please to strum from the A string, not the thick E string at the physical top of the guitar. Why? Because it's an A9, so it's an A-based chord, so we want the correct A root note in there for the chord. So if you want to see how it all fits together with the A9 chord at the end, do go to the beginning of this video where I ran through the whole sequence. So there we are. Hope you've enjoyed today's session. A really useful technique on the guitar that can be used on so many songs. Countless traditional rock and roll songs, Bill Haley, Chuck Berry, Elvis Presley, Rock Around the Clock, Blue Suede Shoes, Great Balls of Fire, Jailhouse Rock, all those real rock and roll classics all use this boogie technique on the guitar. Of course, you might have to adapt it slightly to fit in with the song in question, in terms of leaving a step out or making one step slightly longer than another step because the chorus is slightly longer than the verse or whatever, because obviously you've got to fit it around the structure and lyrics of the song in question. So do experiment with it and have fun, and look forward to catching you again soon. Please don't forget to subscribe and don't forget to hit that bell so that you know when we've uploaded another video. Goodbye and take care.